So the book I chose to read for the Ukrainian book analysis was Zero Point Ukraine by Olena Styazikina. I can't really pronounce that. But anyways, it's not so much a book as it is a collection of four different essays all put together. They're not... it's weird in the way that they don't all flow together necessarily, but they're all related to each other. So there's some weird instances in there, but overall it's good. So the four essays, the first one is more of an introduction essay that kind of sets up what the rest of the book is going to be about. But essay 2 is about the past more, and then essay 3 we go into the like World War, not so much the past. I'm going to go back a bit. Essay 2 is 20s and 30s in Ukraine. Essay 3 is World War II era, and essay 4 is post-war era, so that's more accurate. So essay 2, or go back, essay 1 actually, that's something I want to mention here. She introduces this thing, it's like a concept she calls historical wounds, and these are what she defines as a mixture of history and memory. And now historical wounds are brought up throughout the book as a way of explaining how the concepts of history and memory were manipulated against the Ukrainian people. An example of this is what she calls the myth of the Great Patriotic War. This is because this idea of the Great Patriotic War largely omits the involvement of Ukrainian soldiers in World War II. So I thought that was interesting. So essay 2 is titled The Regime of Continuous War, and this goes into post-World War I era Ukraine and how the war for them, Ukrainians, that being never really ended, and it was always going. She uses examples like deportations and like rationing as from Soviet occupiers as a way to back that up. There's a quote in here that I really liked from Vladimir Lenin in 1920 that reads, "We take bread from Serbia, we take bread from Cuban, but we cannot take bread from Ukraine, as there is a war raging there, and the Red Army has to fight against the bandits." And she defines these bandits as a fictitious enemy created by the Soviets to justify a war, as well as their colonial intentions in Ukrainian territory. Essay 3 is titled Occupational Regimes in Ukrainian Lands, and this one goes into World War II era. The premise is actually pretty simple. It just kind of essentially compares and contrasts Ukrainian occupation during World War II, that being Hungarian, Romanian, Nazi, and Soviet. All pretty similar, pretty bad for the Ukrainians. A lot of violence, a lot of bad stuff during that time. But so that's, in my opinion, I think it was the longest essay, but it was kind of the most boring. It didn't really do much other than just kind of define the period, while the other three kind of analyzed and did more, I think. The fourth was probably my favorite. It was called Re-Sovietization and Unexpected Turn of the Unfinished War. And this is post-World War II, and this goes into post-war Ukraine and the reintroduction of Soviet occupation into previously occupied Ukrainian land. I thought this one was actually really interesting. A large part of the this essay, she focused on, I have it written here better than I can say it now, how the hardship of war serves as a catalyst for the unification of the citizens of Ukraine by bringing them together through shared struggle. And I thought that was all really interesting. She talks about how all these like Ukrainian, what's the word, diaspora, I believe, got all scattered across Europe after the war from all the deportations that were going on during World War II. And I thought this was really interesting. They talked about these like Ukrainian communities in Canada and the US and all over Europe, and how like they brought attention to the problems going on in Ukraine at the time, and how, just very interesting. And then overall, the book was okay. It didn't flow right at times. The essays didn't really connect like they should have. I think they were written individually and at different times. There was some stuff about it in the introduction of the book I can't really remember, but it just had a weird flow. And also, I'm not positive, but I'm gonna guess that the book was written in Ukrainian and then translated, because in the introduction, the author prefaces that there might be some spelling errors throughout the book, which I definitely noticed. It didn't make it difficult to read, but it made it like odd sometimes. There was like sentences or paragraphs I'd have to read twice because the words just didn't make sense. There was punctuation errors, which is not bad. I mean, that'll happen, but this made it weird. A lot of times the quotes got used more than once. I think there was one quote that got used like 3 times, which was odd, but I mean it's really not awful. Overall, I think it was really good, very insightful, very factual. A lot of like first person accounts were used, a lot of quotes from different like historians and whatnot. Really good. Yeah, I would I don't know, if you're interested in the period, I would recommend it, but other than that, probably not. I think there's other stuff you could probably read that get the point across a little better, but overall